Hi everyone. There's something I've been thinking about lately, and I've also received a lot of comments on my channel about this topic, and that is, why is it so hard to make friends when you're older and especially when you're retired? And I'm talking about real friends, so not acquaintances, people that you meet in the grocery store or people that you just generally chat with every now and then because you see them on a walk or that type of thing. I'm talking about real friends, people that you go out for coffee with, that you have some kind of a day-to-day relationship with. I feel like when you're retired, and especially when you're living alone, that part of your life seems to disappear. And all of a sudden, things are very quiet. And I've had a lot of people say, how do you make friends when you're older? What do you need to do to find those elusive people? So let's talk about that in this video. Hi, my name is Raina, and this is Small Retired Life. On my channel, we talk about all things retirement, the ups and the downs of living in this chapter of our life and living our life in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. If you're new, welcome here. When you're younger, meeting people and gathering friends is more of an organic process. You go to the playground, you go to school, eventually you go to university, you work, so you have a lot of colleagues and people that go into your working life from your school life because perhaps you were in the same program together and now you're working in the same field, that type of thing. Friends are very organic. They happen because of the circumstances that you find yourself in your life. Also, when we're younger, I think there's more of a mentality of building friendships. It is that concept of connecting with people. You're in that stage of life where you're gathering things. A friend of mine actually said to me recently, because I was talking about the fact that I was doing a heavy-duty decluttering, and she said, you know, it's funny, in the first half of your life, you spent time accumulating things, and in the latter part of your life, you are discarding them. And this analogy can also be brought to the concept of making friends. In the first part of your life, you are in scenarios where you are making friends, you're meeting people, you're gathering people into your circle. And in the latter part of your life, things happen. You maybe get divorced, or you move away, or you become single because your spouse passed away, or you have had friends that have gone in a completely different direction. So you know how you're walking the hiking trail and some people will take the path to the right and some people will take the path to the left. So there could be a divergence of opinions, of values, all kinds of things. So as we get older, our concept of friendship may change, and so people often move out of our lives. I believe that when you're younger and you're working or going to school, there is a structure to your life that builds and creates relationships. When you retire, your structure completely disappears. And unless you rebuild and you reformulate some kind of a structure, you may find that things all of a sudden become very quiet in your world. When you are retired, it's not inconceivable that your world becomes a little bit smaller, a little bit tighter. If you already do not have a group of people that are filling that niche, then it can be very difficult to introduce your people into your new life. This is especially the case if you are someone who is very introverted and who most of the time enjoys spending time alone. It's also difficult for people that just naturally are not social butterflies. I would put it out there that most people actually have a difficult time really getting out there and getting into an unfamiliar situation and being able to chat with strangers. I can't do it. And I've had a public, outward facing job when I was working for my entire career. And to this day, when I walk into a room where I don't know someone, I feel awkward, I feel socially inept, and oftentimes it's really hard for me to get that energy to fake it till I make it and chat with people and get to know people. I feel so much more comfortable behind this camera, sitting in this room by myself. Here's the thing. I believe that when a lot of people get into this latter stage of life, and if they feel lonely and they don't have a lot of friends, their view tends to be is that everyone already has their people. Everyone has a spouse, everyone has an existing group of friends, or they have family that keep them busy, they have routines. And the idea of you coming into that scenario or trying to fit into that scenario is kind of like going to a party where everyone knows everyone else and you don't know anyone. And the reality is that sometimes this becomes overwhelming and it feels almost impossible. And so a lot of people get to a place where they don't even bother trying. And if anything, they withdraw even more and cocoon into their little lives. Loneliness in retirement is very real. And we don't often talk about it because we have been raised with the idea that we're supposed to be very independent, we are supposed to be strong, we shouldn't have to rely on other people, we should be happy with ourselves and rely on ourselves. And so oftentimes people express themselves by saying, oh, I enjoy the peace and quiet of being alone, or I'm having a quiet week, or I'm very introverted and I don't like people. And sometimes that's true, but sometimes perhaps it's a mask to cover up loneliness. There is a huge difference between solitude and isolation. Solitude can be a very positive thing, whereas isolation can impact our physical and mental health. Honestly, I believe that many of us are walking that fine line between solitude and isolation. And sometimes we actually confuse the two because we know something is wrong, we know we're not 100% happy, but we don't explore why that is. And we'll often make excuses about the idea that the reason we don't have too many friends or any friends is because we're introverted and we love being alone. That is definitely the case for many people. I'm an introvert. I prefer being alone, but I also recognize the value of deep friendship and the value of having friends and your little tribe of people. Making friends in later life is not just emotionally harder, it's practically harder. People already have their routines, they have their habits and the way their day is set up. They often don't have the mental energy to take in new people or to expend the effort on new friendships because new friendships do take effort. I believe that friendships in later life also happen slower for that reason. The fact that there are limited amounts of energy that are to be expended on new things. And frankly, people are more cautious. You're just not going to knock on someone's door and say, hey, you want to be friends? And the fact is, perhaps that's what it takes. Can you imagine if someone who lives down the street all of a sudden came up to you and say, hey, let's hang out? I think you would be very cautious about that. Some of you might look at that person and say, what? What's going on? I can't imagine doing that myself. I can't imagine just walking up to some stranger and say, hey, you want to hang? When we were younger, we certainly tended to do that more. It wasn't a big deal. As we are getting older, all of a sudden this is a big deal. This is not how we're supposed to act when we're older. At least that's the conventional thought. I also think that because things are learnt in early life, we tend to carry these learnings into our later life. And we have this concept of friendship that it has to be immediate, it has to be deep, it has to be intentional, and it should happen kind of right away. And that is just not how it is. When we make friends when we're older and retired, this process takes a lot longer. The friendships start very small and they build over a period of time. They require a lot of intention. It's a different process than what we experienced from our younger days, or when we would be at work and we would meet a colleague because we see them every day and we just click and a natural friendship happens immediately. We're also in the same circumstances. Now, as older adults who are retired or who are over the age of 50, we can all be in such different circumstances that it may be so much harder to even just meet people. So what helps then? What can we do to find friends, to find people to invite into our life and to spend some time with? Now, I'm not going to give you the advice of, hey, just go join a club, because that is not very helpful, especially to people who are introverted and who don't like to be in a large group of new people or people they don't know. It makes them uncomfortable and they tend to withdraw. That being said, keep in mind that trying to gain friends when you're older does not mean that you need this whole new social circle. Really, what we're talking about is 1 or 2 points of connection. That's it, really. 1 or 2 places where people start to recognize you. They see you on a daily basis. So as an example, I'll give you something that worked for me. I go for a walk every day pretty much around the same time. And so I see the same people. Now, because I'm going for a walk at 10 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock in the morning, most of the people that are walking on the river are either people who are retired and are not working, or people that perhaps have a more flexible work arrangement because they can leave in the middle of the morning to go out for a walk. In any case, I do this every day, and I have started to recognize faces. And over a span of months, I perhaps got to a place where I went from just recognizing someone every single day to saying hi, and then eventually having a small conversation, and then eventually having a coffee, because all of a sudden, this person becomes a normal in your life. You see them every day. And so the opportunity to form a friendship is there already. It is 1 point of connection every single day. It's a habitual thing. Now, when I talked about not joining a club, I guess I was being kind of glib in the sense that this is what everyone tells you. When I think of a club, I always think of some social thing where you have to socialize with other people who are in that group. There are groups of people doing things where you don't actually have to socialize. So anyone who's a runner knows that you can join a running club. There's tons of them here in the city, or even walking clubs if you're not a runner. And you can just go and walk, or you can just go and run. The thing is if you do this habitually, that is a point of connection. It is one point of connection. You do it all the time, and eventually some kind of a social connection with someone in that group is going to form. It may take time. It may be that it's not going to happen on day 1 or week 1 or week 2 or month 1. It will take time. Another example is if you're into hobbies, if you like something like knitting, there are so many different groups in the city that do knit-alongs. If you don't know how to search them out, just call some of the local yarn shops. They're usually in the know. Again, you don't need to be super participatory in any discussion. You can just go have a cup of coffee and knit on your favorite project that is happening, and just do this regularly. Especially if you find that you do enjoy it. Maybe it's the means of getting out for something different and seeing different faces. Knitters, I find, generally are often introverted people, so they will not push you. But again, if you do this all the time and you become recognizable to other people, relationships form. I think what I am talking about here is that consistency matters more than effort. So you do not need to be the social butterfly in a group of people. You do not need to necessarily say something right away. It's you being consistent and showing up that allows progress to happen. Going somewhere once does not build connections, but going somewhere repeatedly certainly will. I am not religious in any way, so I do not go to church or anything like that. But I know a lot of my viewers are, and if they go to church, they meet people through church because they are there consistently every Sunday and they see the same people, and so connections are formed. Again, they don't have to talk to someone if they don't want to, but the sheer fact that they're regularly attending this place means that they allow connections to happen. The most important thing, I think, when you consider making friends when you're older is to lower the bar. Now, I'm not talking about, meeting people and accepting people in that you don't like. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is we need to perhaps consider lowering the bar for what friendship looks like. Friendship does not have to necessarily right away be this deep connection with someone. Friendship could mean that you're seeing that person every so often and you have a meaningful conversation, or you have a great coffee or a great chit chat. Friendship is not about becoming besties right away when you're older in the same way that perhaps happened when you were a younger person. The idea is that people become a part of your routine. It's pleasant to chat with them, and you enjoy spending some time in a day, in a week, seeing that person and having some kind of a connection with them. That is the build-up to a friendship when you're older. It is not something that happens immediately at a very deep level and things just go at superpower speed. It is a very slow process, and it's something that you just allow to develop and let it marinate a little bit and be happy with a tiny connection over a period of time. At some point, when you start to see people and you start to chat and you start to have a little repartee with them every so often, someone has to go first with saying, hey, do you want to grab a coffee? Or do you want to meet up somewhere at a museum or for a talk at the library or something like that? Someone has to make that first move. And it's very uncomfortable. I think it's a very vulnerable place to be in because no one enjoys rejection. But keep in mind that other people are the same as you. Perhaps they're waiting for someone to make that first move. And as an old boss of mine used to always say, if you don't risk something, you don't end up with anything. And that's how life works. Keep in mind that we're all a little bit more alone than we want to be. And I mean, of course, there are exceptions. I definitely will have comments that will say, I'm perfectly fine as I am. But I think in general, there's a lot of people that do feel a little bit more lonely than they put out. And what that means is, therefore, there are also more people open to establishing a connection than you would think. And so taking that risk of making that first move of saying, hey, do you want to go for a coffee or do you want to meet up somewhere? I think there's a potential that someone will want that connection and they will say yes. But there's definitely a time where you have to take that step of making that first move. And that's very difficult. I get it, especially for those of you who are introverts. Friendship in retirement doesn't look like your friendship did when you were 25. It's a little bit quieter, it's a little bit more selective, it happens a little bit slower, and that's okay. The people that you connect with now are people that you choose and people who choose you because of where you're at in your life right at this moment. And that's always meaningful because typically for people to choose each other, there has to be a commonality. You are not thrown together because you work in an office together or you're sitting in a classroom. You actually have to get out there and seek out another person, and that person has to seek you out. So that friendship takes a little bit more effort and more time, and I think to a certain extent becomes more meaningful. It does look different, however, from what you were used to maybe 15, 20 years ago. And as long as we're willing to accept that things don't have to look the same and they don't have to be the same like they used to be in order to be meaningful, I think that allows a bit more openness to going forward and finding someone new to fill your life. Also, being open that friends happen now for certain activities, and that's okay. I have a friend that I walk with every Sunday. I don't really see her any other time of the week. I suppose we could, but we have our lives. We do other things. We both have work that we do during the week. And Sunday is the best day and we enjoy walking, so we get together for the walk. And it's something meaningful that I look forward to every week, and I have great conversations with her. It's just that particular friend is there for those particular moments, and I'm very happy with that. I'm totally content with that friendship. So changing your expectations about what friendships look like when you're older, because they're not the same as when you were 25. If you are finding it difficult to make friends right now, then remember that this is completely normal. This is happening to so many other people. There's so many other people in the same position as you. Reconfigure your idea of friendship, allow it to happen a little bit slower, and keep in mind that you might have to do a little bit more work to seek it out. If you're sitting at home and you don't go anywhere, then you're not going to meet anyone, and that is the blunt truth. You have to make a little bit of an effort. You have to do something where you show up every single day or every single week you have to be consistent in order to open yourself up to some kind of a friend relationship. My videos are not a solution to anything. They are just a series of things that I'm thinking about and I'm pondering. The real nuggets and the real advice lies in the comment section below this video, because there are so many people who have life skills and experiences that they offer through their comments under the video. So please join in, leave your comments in the comment section below the video. And this is all I have for this week. I will see you all next week at my regular time. Bye.